Welcome, everybody, to the Soils Matters podcast. And we have a wonderful couple joining us today, as well as Leighton-Morrison and Dr. Avsingh, our hosts. But I got a special thing that I wanted to run because I know you guys like to do this. So I'm going to play this first, if I can get over here. I don't know if that was far enough into it, but I just thought you guys would appreciate starting with that sound. And I'm going to jump off and let the host take over.
Thanks, Ken. Uh-oh, did we lose them? There you go. So welcome, loves. It's so good to see your faces. It's been too long. Oh, you can't hear? Uh-oh, they got a sound problem. You might want to jump off and come back on.
Yeah, jump off and come back on, guys. Because we did hear them a second ago.
Can you hear us?
I don't think they can hear us either.
Okay, so kill it and then come back.
Yeah, it might have had something to do with my running the other video. I don't know.
Because we couldn't hear the other video either.
Hear the other video as well.
Oh, you couldn't hear that either, but
No.
we can hear each other.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it was the gong sound. Okay, they're just coming back on now, so
we can hear you.
We can hear you great now. Now we're all perfect.
Okay.
What happened there?
All right. Well, we'll start over. It's great to see you guys. It's been too long since we've actually been in each other's company. So I'm just thrilled to see you guys and be able to, have some time to really chop it up. And I'd love to open this up with a story that I don't think I ever told you to. So I was at the first Regen conference in Portland, Oregon. I was a newbie to the cannabis community in many ways. And I was sitting in the back of the room, and I think it was on day 2. And all of a sudden I heard this commotion out in the hallway. And I was sitting right by the door so I could turn my head around the corner and see what was going on. And Joshandkelly walked in and the crowd parted. It was just like, whoa, who are these two people?
Rock stars.
And I'm very much empathic. And so right away I could feel the energy that these two were giving off. Just incredible love and energy, positive energy. And everybody in the fucking room knew you guys. Like everybody there was like, oh my God, Joshandkelly, hey. And it was probably one of the most impressionable first meeting I've ever had in my life. And that was many ways the beginning of a friendship that has blossomed and gotten us to this point in time and day and age. So thank you guys for being who you are and continue to share that beautiful energy. So Av, please take a shout out and give them a hi.
Well, it is I feel like I'm fan crushing as well. Just to say, I've heard so much of Dragonfly Earth Medicine. Very, very privileged to have this opportunity to chat. So yeah.
We feel super honored to be here today with you all. And of course, there's nothing that we love to talk about more than health and well-being of the soil and of humans and of humanity and how we could all do it better. So, to be on this conversation with you all, we're just super excited and unbelievable. Wonderful to meet you. And Leighton, of course, long friendship that we know that we're just going to have for life. So we're really thankful for you in our lives. And I love that first meeting story. That was a really fun weekend. We had a really good time there. It was nice to sort of get out. And it was the first time we really said it the way that it is. Like, we didn't make it real pretty, but just gave it to everybody straight. Like, it's more important for you all to be in business in 5 years from now than it is for you to have some crazy business in 1 year and put everything that you have into it. So
I'd also just add that we feel equally in awe and in inspiration every single time we enter a room and see people, yourself, other people there to learn, there to teach. It's just beautiful seeing people come together in the spirit of making the world a better place. You know, we always feel like everyone in the room is actually the rock star because they go out and do all the work. You know, one person is not a star of anything, you know, but a person that's part of a group or a community becomes as powerful as that group or strong as that group is. So that's the way, the type of space that we feel like we've held and continue to hold and are continued to be inspired by.
Beautiful words, guys. Beautiful words. And you know what, for the audience here, let's back it up a little bit and get some of the history of you two and, you know, where you came from and the accomplishments. And I just love hearing these stories because I know a lot of them, but there's probably so many I don't know. So how did you two get together? Where did that all begin?
Well, it began nearly 30 years ago on April 1st, 1993 in Eugene, Oregon. And I was only 19 and I'm now turning 50. So it's like being, you know, in a whole entire lifetime with someone, my love. And
I was a little bit older, so I was like, oh, Jesus.
She was a whole 3 older. So it was like a whole, you know, different generation, let's say. And but not really. And so we just had this beautiful, you know, it was from river rafting and the love of outdoors that really brought us together. My roommate took a river rafting class in Kelly.
It definitely was a love of cannabis that brought us together too. I feel like cannabis brings together a lot of people from all over the world. And I believe that, you know, at that time, that's how I was making a living, as I was doing great bed shows and I was swinging bags of weed, the kind bud back in the 80s. Back in the 90s. That was all, you know,
before names.
Awesome. It was before all of the names.
Kind bud.
It was
green
called
bud
Kind
as
Bud.
opposed to brick bud. But everyone knows that. But
it really was
that's
the blueberry.
What we were doing,
it was the original blueberry. So
or skunk. We had purple kush, skunk. You know, the blueberries were the few strains that we had at the time, you know.
So yeah, we're going on 30 years together and we've had a whole life of growing a lot of gardens. Josh and I, from the very minute that we've been together, we started growing gardens. And, you know, now I know that we're growing soil. So we've been creating soil and growing soil for a very long time, putting plants in it. And yeah.
We met in 93 and then in 94, Kelly graduated university and we drove in a Volkswagen bus to Costa Rica and back in 1994. We went from a Grateful Dead show in Seattle and drove all the way through Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and into Costa Rica, and then back. And it was very impressionable to us because we spent a month in Guatemala and we really were in awe of the terrace gardening and farming that was happening in Guatemala and the type of farming that was going on any type of hillside. We're like, wow, that's not only beautiful, it makes a lot of sense. You're just holding the, you know, the biology and not just letting it strip down the mountain, you know, and there was so much. We even noticed the big banana plantations and saw what United Fruit had done and those type of corporate farming situations that happened all through Central America were also very impressionable on us at the time. And of course, the war and the Sandinistas and the Chiapas and all of the Zapatistas in Chiapas, like that was impressionable too. When we came back to Eugene, we were living with a person who was one of the main psychedelic mushroom farmers of Oregon, you know, underground, of course, because we're talking about 1994. But our first gardens were learning composting for not only outdoor gardens, but for indoor mushroom cultivation. Also, Oregon Tilth was just starting in Eugene in the mid 90s, and organic farming, the Organic Farming Act of 1990 from California was also an impressionable time in Eugene at the time. We had the organic thing of 1990 in California, and then Oregon Tilth came out. So there was a lot of consciousness around just organic food cultivation, soil building, compost teas. Back in those days, Elaine Ingham was working as a teacher at Oregon State University, and we had a lot of mentors that were her colleagues at the time that we were all part of this organic food movement. Of course, also weed and everything else, because we're just alternative family and we're dedicated for life to the underground and to alternative therapies, because we just don't believe in what's been given us to us. So that was like our alternative. We're going to do something different than what the system has given us. And at the time in Eugene, it was very progressive, extremely progressive. And it laid a very large impression on us through midwifery, mycology, herbalism, and organic farming. That's our roots. That it's Grateful Dead, psychedelics, that it formed us to say, this is our life path forever, never stray, no chemicals, natural only. And I think we're still embodying that today.
Well, and I just wanted to say too, is that I grew up gardening in Virginia. I grew up on farms. I grew up on a really big piece of land. And it was always my job as a very youthful, maybe 4 or 5, to take care of the garden and to go bring the compost out to the garden. And at that time, I was just digging little holes in the garden and putting the food compost in it. And we had horses at the time, and we were utilizing all of the manure. So really, I feel like I've always been gardening and always been doing things in the soil, because it just makes me feel good. And it's so wonderful to put a seed in and be able to harvest something that you can actually use. And it's incredible.
Yeah, books like Mycelium Running wasn't even written yet. It was just growing and cultivating mushrooms by Paul Stamets. And we were seeing, country fair spoken word talks about, this new awareness around mycelium and nutrient exchange and mycorrhizal fungi. So our first product was a mycorrhizal fungi product.
Wow.
That I did not know. and also, I think that it's really important that people understand that, Kelly, you're a midwife. You've dedicated incredible amounts of time teaching women health and nutrition and providing a very important service to people in places that are not right on the main street. So why don't you open up about how you got into that?
Well, yeah, I am definitely a midwife. I'm a registered midwife, but along with that, I'm also a naturopathic. I've done naturopathic studies, and I do, have a ton of
practical
background and practical experience in helping and healing people. I have helped thousands of babies be born into the world, but I've also helped even more of that amount of people in either injury healing or also just prolonged living a better life. When the first disaster hit, which was in Bali, there was the Bali bomb. We created and helped open up a clinic for women and children over in Bali in lieu of that. There was some money that was coming, and then we helped open up a free clinic. Now, when you open up a free clinic for women and children in developing nations, you're going to get everybody stopping by that has had car accidents, moped accidents, anybody who's lost a finger, anybody who's having a heart attack, any and all things come into a clinic when you open up a clinic. So I can say, yes, I've specialized in women and children, but in that path, it's been all people in pretty much all different types of ailments. And then we went on to open up a clinic in the Aceh province. We were there 2 weeks after the earthquake and the tsunami.
In Malabo, Sumatra, which was the epicenter, the 9.0 earthquake, just beat big trucks on the ground for 10 minutes. And then an hour later, a tsunami came in and wiped out 200,000-300,000 people in this area.
Yeah. So Malabo went from a town of, I believe, about 240,000 to about 32,000. So we moved a clinic to that zone and area 2 weeks after. And you can imagine, because there wasn't any other medical care there at all, then, you know, we were getting all patients. So I feel pretty confident in saying that now my background is in all health and wellness for all people. I'm even pulling out teeth. You know, I'm pulling out infected teeth. I'm dealing with, you know, crazy things. There was a bamboo in a woman's leg that went all the way from the bottom of her leg all the way up to her hip. And if I wasn't the one that was going to do the surgery, there wasn't anybody else there. So then when I did that first surgery, then, you know, the people just started lining up. They felt like it was a safe clinic to be able to come to in Malabo. So people were walking 5 days to come to our clinic.
Along with midwives, we organized midwifery meetings. So midwives walked for 2 and 3 days to have a special meeting with her and other midwives that you were working with.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the people that were coming to be there with us were coming solo because they would have lost all of their other family members. If there was one family member that was alive, then there was a huge celebration that 2 people from one household would be able to be together. So, you know, dealing with that tense energy of total disproportionate unhealth and trauma, and then trying to bring health, balance, continuity, communication, love, well-being, safety back to a group of people that had gone through that. That's where I feel like it is truly my specialty, because then we went on to help out in Haiti. We were another first group that arrived there in Haiti. So for us to come into a garden or to consult somebody on a farm that is having the same type of trauma, it's easy for us to bring similarities in these experiences that we've had on the planet, to bring similarities into walking into a zone that has been really harmed, both emotionally, microbiota, also, how do we bring balance? So it's really been this incredible journey of Josh and I being together from day one, 30 years ago on April 1st, that we're bringing health and healing vibrations and balance to those areas on the planet that are in need of it.
And we did all that in Indonesia, also in collaboration with a group called EDEP, which was the Indonesian Department of Education and Permaculture. So we were also working on a lot of farming modalities as well, because as Kelly stated, you know, you can't have a healthy pregnant birth without nutrition, you know, and that's where we truly learned most about how gardens, I mean, that's where you really see where gardens affect nutrition and how do you make your garden nutritious, you know. So those were very impressionable times.
And a lot like, you know, that the plant is a symptom of the soil is a lot like the placenta is a symptom of the nutrition within the woman. So all of those thousands of births that I've been honored to be a part of, we've taken pictures of the placenta and have noticed the nutritional value that those people have had, or the trauma that those people have been under, or the nutrition that is valuable to the area or to their religion, or, you know, how is this all relating to the overall health of humanity and the overall health of the plants and the environment around them,
or the overall, you know, cognitive response to a child becoming, you know, a person. You know, you can see a truly well-rounded baby just advances through all of the progressions of a human when they have what it takes. And not everyone can give their child what it takes. We know that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We know that. We know that there's like perfect, and then there's I wish I had perfect.
But we know that when they're going to come to the clinic, that they're going to get a chicken and they're going to get a hen that's going to lay some eggs for them. And then when they come again, they're not even going to be able to be seen unless they're breastfeeding their babies. Because when you go into developing nations, it's seen as, you know, that you might have more status if you've got a bottle, that the baby is feeding on a bottle, or you have more status if they're doing things that are more Western culture rather than their traditional cultures. So for us to really instill and educate that those traditional cultures are king, that is queen, that is what's going to help out your children. So, and all the while having to bury placentas and having to bury limbs of people's bodies and them not having, what are they going to do with it? Well, Josh and I were able to come in and have a lot of solutions for Médecins Sans Frontières and the WHO of using microbiology to deal with these issues rather than, you know, big, huge incinerators to incinerate placentas, which we really didn't have. And doctors and a lot of different people coming to us with solutions that didn't make sense in that zone at all. Like, give me a break. Some of the solutions, they're bringing in tons of dried baby formula. So WHO brings into these areas dried baby formula. Well, first of all, if we're giving formula to babies, then mother's milk is going to dry up, babies will die. And second of all, it's dried. Where are we going to get clean water? Like the thought of some of what people feel is healthy and what is wellness is absolutely ridiculous. So then awesome, I'll take a whole pallet of formula and I'm just going to start giving it to the mothers. And then the mothers are going to be eating and drinking the formula and the babies are not going to have anything to do with that. It's just basic knowledge that we can pick up from just watching nature. We're always trying to re-explain nature. It runs so perfectly. And all of this integrated head work of the human being trying to outsmart what nature is already there for us. So for us to go to developing nations to reteach their own traditional ways of health and wellness, to me seems really ridiculous. And it's the same as when we go to places to reteach people what the soil can truly offer them without these NPK bullshit that they think is an elevated education for them to use. So then you have to start asking, what is education doing to us, and why are we going to school for 12 years to learn about something that really doesn't have anything to do with our health and wellness? Like, at all. Great, I learned algebra, awesome, I can do it on a computer. Like, what? So I think that in this realization of our life it's big to recognize that what you've been fed as valuable may not be so valuable, and that it takes digging deeper than what's just given to you on an instant platter. We need to dig deeper for our health and wellness.
We did bring a lot of natural.
And I rambled on there.
She did ramble on Rose, Grateful Dead, but we also did bring a lot of natural farming practices to Haiti in 2010 and brought EM mother culture at the time, you know, because we were also working on indigenous microorganisms as well. But SCD probiotics, give thanks. And Kansas City did help us out with a lot of stuff. And Dr. Teru Ohiga has amazing PDFs, you know, on closed loop farming. And those are some of the first ones that we read before Master Cho and Jadam and the whole Young San Cho style.
So we were already closed loop before that.
Just saying, we
took
our closed loop stuff we were already doing, added the other stuff that we were doing, and made it that biodiverse farming practice, just like Kelly learning midwifery in the 90s was learning in a garden while gardening all day long, growing the herbs that you're going to be using to give to the women that you're helping. So, you know, literally it's just,
well, I mean,
everything.
what paid for the clinics? What paid for the clinics? Cannabis paid for the clinics. All of the cannabis people that we are still involved with, people said, yeah, okay, I'll give 2% of my crop this year to a clinic to run. And so we were able to access hundreds and thousands of dollars from the cannabis community because
we built a 44
amazing.
a 44-foot dome in Haiti and had 400 births in 8 months, 100% natural, with a hybrid Creole English nutritional book that we created with the like, I don't want to say grandmothers, aunties, the voodoo grandmothers that walked around singing the whole time we were doing births, the stick dancing, the drums, unbelievable. And it was very powerful and funded by, you know, real people in the world. So there's the background on Dragonfly Earth Medicine. That's all before Dragonfly Earth Medicine ever existed.
What do you say to that, Av?
Wow. Wow. You know, in just in that brief, I think I could listen to that and ramble on for a lot longer. I try to say, Kelly, how do you fit into the BC, what I've heard is like midwifery, as opposed to midwifery? How do you fit into that very structured system that they've taken midwifery, which should be, as you've described, and turned it into something that is formalized like allopathic medicine?
Well, pretty much almost the same way as what we've taken entering into the cannabis world as well, you know. So what has happened with cannabis is it's become highly regulated.
It's been legalized and over-regulated.
And that's the same thing that's happened with midwifery, is it when things become legalized, they become over-regulated.
Especially in Canada.
So now my work, what I continue to do is health and wellness. I say that I'm a retired midwife right now, although I'll always help out people who maybe I've helped them into the world and now they're having their babies, because now I'm old enough that I'm actually seeing that. I just helped my granddaughter into the world. So that was really beautiful at our farm. Really amazing. Yeah, really beautiful. So just to continue, truly, I'm never going to stop pushing the envelope. And right now we're working with a lot of doctors that now are starting to have access to psychedelics and plant medicine. And they're stepping out into the world with all of their confidence in the way that they've been taught without any background knowledge. So they've got all of the confidence in the world that they're going to come out and heal people with psychedelic work. And they have no idea about it. They don't know what the different compounds are going to do to different people, nor do they understand that these sort of things need to happen in nature and that we are holding space. We are not in therapy. So, you know, Ab, I'm just continuing to push it. I'm pushing the way that children should be born at home on mother and father's own, you know, time period and how they want it, without having to fit into this. You know, you have to open your cervix at a certain amount of hours. You have to have all of these things. And I can honestly say that maybe 1% of humanity actually births like that. And I can say that 1% of humanity is going to have a psychedelic trip in the way that those doctors think that psychedelics are to happen. Right now in Canada, we are allocated 2.5 grams of any plant medicine, pretty much is totally legal. Here in Canada, it's like, and with that now is just like with the cannabis industry, this huge amount of people that want to regulate it. They're going to regulate it by keeping you in a room. They're going to regulate it by having padding in the room. You're going to be sitting there with a doctor that may or may not ever have tripped in their whole entire life. And then they're going to give you therapy on what's happening within your own being. So a lot like midwifery, I hold space. I don't do therapy. I allow the unfolding, because to me, that's healing. If we can't unwind everything that we've been wound up in this life through education, through pharma, through big ag, through social cultures and constrictions, if we can't unwind that, then we're never going to be able to get to the health and wellness that we need in the future. And that's why we're having these conversations on why soil matters. Because to me, I don't separate soil and nature from the health and wellness of ourselves.
I would just add that the legalization of midwifery happened before the legalization of cannabis, and Kelly did hit on it, but when they legalized it, it really killed midwifery in British Columbia, for example, and it killed it because it created an overregulated system with all the rules and tons more, like Kelly said. And then the reality was all the midwives that were far away out in the mountains just don't identify with that, nor do all the people that live a closed loop off the land, no electricity. You can't go into town. You can't trust that system. So it like here with legalization of Canada, they legalized it, and I mean in British Columbia, and now minimal farms in the Kootenays here are legalized. So it's like this news story, yay, we legalized midwifery, yay, we legalized cannabis. Well, why is it when you go in this, and you look at society, it's no longer represented anywhere? And they came after people with jail time. Midwives got put in jail. Literally, one of our closest, Gloria LeMay, awesome woman, put in jail for doing natural, traditional midwifery.
Mm-hmm.
In Vancouver area, even in Vancouver area.
And one thing I wanted to say that's really important here is that this is the difference between a person being brought up for their knowledge within a community or a person just having a license slapped on them. There's a big difference. When a community is choosing a midwife, they're choosing one, or if they're choosing a soil biologist, or if they're choosing someone to come in and help them, they're choosing the person that has the experience. Now we're in this crazy dismay that we're choosing somebody who has a license. And what I want to tell you all is that to have a license as a midwife here in BC, you need to be at 9 births. 9.
That's horrifying.
This is exactly what's happening everywhere.
I mean,
when doctors would come to our clinics and they've been schooled with all of their instruments and all of the things to go bing, and then they don't have that electricity or they don't have that capability, what you realize is a person that has a license and no experience. They went through incredible personal breakdowns. After the 3rd week, all of the doctors that would come as the best in the world from Vanderbilt, from Harvard, from all over the place, they're the best. And they've been told that the surgeons, the best surgeon in the world, when they come and it's really truly time to heal, they've been ripped off of an education. They've been ripped off of being a healer, because a lot of them actually went into the job to actually be a healer. And they've been ripped off from the experience that they should have gotten in the 10 fucking years that they pay to go to school, where they don't get any experience at all. But yet they've got a doctor, an MD after their name. So this is the same thing that's happening in the cannabis industry. It's the same thing that's happening everywhere, is this false sense of knowing without having any kind of background of watching things break down, of making a billion mistakes, of knowing what your highest success is going to be. You don't know that when you've had 9 births. You don't know that when you've gone to medical school for 9 years and you've never actually had a patient, but you're a doctor,
Well,
and the whole world trusts you.
And the intuition and healing is it's like a muscle. Like you have to exercise it. You know, it's not just there for everyone. You know, so a lot of these systems, so many things take us away from that intuitive power that we have. You know, so these are the types of things that we should think about. You know, and bring back into our world, because they're never gone. If we're still here, they're still there. So you know what I mean? Like, we used to identify with the book called Where There Is No Doctor. You know
It's a
what I
great
mean?
one, by the way.
Sometimes
everybody.
there's not a doctor there.
It's a great book.
So thank you for caring about this part, because this is a fractal of soil and cannabis and everything that I think we always thought was such an important piece.
I think your holism just shines, right? And you know, even looking at the start of this Ken's segment and all the words that are used to describe, I think Dragonfly Earth Medicine embodies probably 99% of those words that are there, and words that aren't there too. It's just, you know, it's phenomenal. That holism is really why we can have a discussion on midwifery, and it fit into the importance of soil biology as well. So yeah, phenomenal vision. And you know, I just see it radiate. This is not something that see something that is intuitive for you both. It flows from you. I think that's when, you know, Leighton describes when you walk into a room, there is an aura that comes out. I was just looking up your, you know, DEM certification, and it's beautiful, you know, and I've been in the organic movement for 30 years, you know, right there with never wanting it to get standardized, never wanting it to become regulated by the Canadian government, fought for that for the longest time, because the standards that you have for DEM is exactly what we need in organic or even in regenerative. It speaks to your vision, and it's absolutely beautiful. The most important part that I loved was the fact that you really encourage people to share their knowledge with other DEM certified farms, and we've lost that peer-to-peer knowledge exchange, right? And it's phenomenal that you actually put it into your standards.
I think now would be a good time to ask Josh and Kelly if they want to come to the Grow Up in Edmonton in May. You know,
I know you've spoken at the Unicorn Cup, which, you know, I love Che, and that's a beautiful organization. Now, Grow Up is something I'm you know, within the cannabis space, in the regulated cannabis space. To me, Grow Up is it's getting to the point where it's really respectful of the plant, and it's breaking away from the suits that would have interfered with the plant and the industry. So you would be I would be honored to have both of you come, and it would be phenomenal. But you know, it's a regulated industry. It's we try. Does this sound very apologetic? But
we've spoken in the lift, so we understand.
Oh yeah, well we deal with the regulations. In fact, we've written and helped out with a lot of the regulations. You know, we've had the premier come here to our house, as well as the federal Department of Ag has come here and had discussions with us on what is legacy farms. How is it that legacy farms can be happening in every other part of agriculture but cannabis? And how is it that we can start having those conversations of a cannabis farm being a legacy farm? How is it that we can get to our family without being able to pay the mortgage because we're only making 4% off of this market? You know what I mean? So we've been dealing with a lot of the regulated market to try to help them expand. And now we're winning in BC. We've got now farm to gate sales. And that was because of our group here in the Kootenays that's just been continuously pushing it, along with other people in Canada. And
Sarah from Craft Cannabis, and Shannon, and there's a lot of people doing really cool stuff. Also, I just like, I would say that we've been involved in the regulated market since day one, because we've had Dragonfly Earth Medicine as products, and we've helped with soil recipes and tea recipes and stuff since the dawn of the warehouse. You know what I mean? So, thousands of growers.
I think CFIA will give also a reprieve up until I think it's October 2026 now. So we don't have to register. A lot of our fertilizer supplements have to be registered, but I think they're doing a reprieve for a few more years, which is great, because a lot of it doesn't make sense.
There's a bigger regenerative group that is gaining momentum by communicating with each other here in British Columbia. There's a lot of people in the registered market that are not able to grow organically the way they want to, for that simple reason: they can't get a nettle in the building, and use the nettle as a top dress, because they just don't, they can't. They're not. It's not they can't prove it.
Well, now they want to consider it a pesticide.
Well, the
EPA would like to put to put nettles. Yes, because it contains a lot of silicates. So we got a letter from the EPA, a cease and desist, now about a year and a half ago, and they told us that they've been watching Dragonfly Earth Medicine on YouTube, and they told us, you've been educating us. That's what they told us. You've been educating us. And now that you've educated us, we realize that we have all these holes that we need to restrict you all further. So if you're going to be using nettles, and if you're going to be using alfalfa, well, you better be putting that under a pesticide label, because that has enough silicate in it to cover pests. And that's the way that we want to be registering that. So now we're going to be seeing a lot of natural plant things that we came in. We were some of the first people to have an herbal product the way that we did, put a bunch of bacteria and fungi in it. Then we know that in a tea brew, the bacteria and is going to eat all of the herbs. That's all 100% organic and human grade. Then when you put it into the soil, then it's already broken down exudates that the plant can pick up right away. Well, for some reason, the EPA and the Department of Agriculture said, oh, that was a loop that we missed. We want to make sure that direct feeding continues to happen. Synthetic direct feeding continues to happen. So these people are educating us on now bioavailable feeding that we didn't actually know about. So let's shut it down.
Right. And also we're, having a lot of successes. So I would just add.
Oh, for sure. To us, that's just another hoop. We jump through it.
And, Green Life Productions in Nevada. Nevada has similar stringent laws to Canada. And we've been helping and working with Green Life in their operation. They're on 34 cycles indoor soil, and Leighton's had them on and talked with Steve different times. Amazing people. Everyone should know about Green Life Productions by now, because they're probably the longest running indoor cultivation with, continuous soils. So we've been involved with them since the second cycle. So we do have the ability to speak in all realms. We would love to come to the Grow Up or any other conference. We could want to be part of all realms, because if you're not speaking to the groups that are exactly maybe on, like you, then maybe you're not making the type of change that you're looking for. So
now you see why I love them, Av.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, that simple concept of all life comes from the soil, all life goes back to the soil, is something we've forgotten. And this couple embodies that as the foundation, the start of the loop, and it's so important. And then the other thing too is the herbalism. What I'm seeing in here in the US is that they're trying to make naturopaths, they're trying to declare naturopaths as they want to license them. They want to regulate them. They want to take away their power, because this pill, if it actually has an effect, we have to regulate that effect. And so, you know, Al, I don't know if you know this, but Josh and Kelly donated a ton of mycocaps to my love, Pauline, who unfortunately passed away about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And if she was here today, she would be so angry, because the very natural path that saved her life, because she refused chemo, refused it, even when they got her like a deer, she refused them to wash her belly out with chemo, because she did not want that poison in her body. And the doctor that performed the surgery basically told her, you have a death wish. You're never going to survive this. You're never going to make it. By the end of that relationship that they had, he moved on to Yale, because he's become one of the top OGBYN, what is the oncologists, because of some of the work that he's been doing. But if she was here today, she would be freaking out that she could no longer, or was going to be restricted on some of the herbs that she was using that saved her life. And here's two people that have the answers to all of those herbs and the values of them and how to prepare them. And like Pauline, who, when she prepared medicine, she did it with love. She did it with a prayer. She did it with mental energy. And that's what these guys do. And so, you know, we need, as a species, as a group of humans or humus beings, right, Josh? We need to get together and stop this fucking nonsense from continuing. If they get away with regulating all herbs because they actually work, think of the dangers of that. And now we're forced to take medicine. Like I will not go back to another Western medicine ever again. Doctor, I don't trust them. So many of them are disenchanted and pissed off at the system, because just what Kelly said, 9 years, I got nothing. I got this huge debt. I have no choice but to work my ass off. Oh, by the way, it's for-profit medicine. Wait a minute. Did you take a hypocritical oath or a hippocratical oath? What was it? And so you understand that you eat what you cut. So how many people are going to perform surgeries that don't necessarily have to be done to support their fucking debt from the pharmaceutical industries that control the medical fucking schools?
Dude, I hear you. It's the difference between going to a hospital and having a natural birth in a hospital costs around $900. This is in a hospital. You go in, you're out around $900. To have a C-section, now we're talking 19 grand. Now you tell me the numbers that we go from my little village, you know, town here that used to have something like 19% C-sections is now gone to 69% C-sections. Come on. If we haven't learned here in the last 3 years what the agenda is, then we're not paying attention. And if we haven't learned in the last 3 years that health and well-being is not associated with the medical world, then we've lost. Of course I want to go to the hospital if I've gotten in a car accident. They're fucking awesome to put back bones. They're amazing. Love those bone doctors or people that want to help with emergency surgery. That's amazing. We need that. But that's not curative. They don't have the curatives. It's not that every doctor falls into that, because that's not fair. I do meet amazing doctors that really do think outside of the box, that really do feel like they were ripped off in their education, and they're going to prove it in their patients and every single day that they work. But even this last 3 years, what they've had to deal with is above and beyond. So for them to even try to come back to some kind of a holistic healing in their practice is near impossible. And then let's talk about those surgeons who have a huge, massive debt, and they need to create the surgery to pay off their debt. Well, what about, what are they eating? What kind of thought processes are they under? I mean, the doctors that I know are working crazy amounts of hours. They're not eating anything nutritional, but yet they're making decisions on our body, because I don't think good decisions can come from any human being unless we're fully packed with nutrients, just like the soil. We cannot have healthy plants come out of the soil unless the soil is nutritionally packed to be able to give an opportunity for the plant to uptake it. It's the same as a human being. If the environment is not filled with intelligence, then the symptoms that that person is going to be having is out of the stupidity. We have ability to do better, but for some reason we still keep going back to the setup system that hand feeds us.
I think we need to keep like repeating, especially like in Canada, we have the right to provide our own medicine, you know, and that's one reason why they haven't really been successful in getting rid of the medical here in Canada. And now with the psychedelic component opening up, I think we just have the ability to create our own world a little bit, you know, more. So let's try to do that, you know, and then through the education and things, you know, we can be upset, but also just being productive and moving forward. There's, you know, our group was on CBC the other day trying to talk about how to make the cannabis industry more effective so that we could provide the access that people used to have before legalization. You know, that's a crazy subject 6 years into legalization. How do we go back to providing the access that we had before it was legalized? So there's a level of insanity to it all, for sure. So, but we just have to stay on the path of just reason, you know, and keep moving forward.
And like you guys always preach, there's only solutions. There are no problems. It's just solutions. Although it appears in this day and age, like you said, that there are so many people that are completely asleep at the wheel. I mean, you walk around and you see people driving their car with the window open and a mask on, and there's nobody in the car. I feel bad for that person. That person is completely programmed. They are shut down. They do not have any thought process of like what is really going on around me. And so in some ways it's kind of like scary to see how many people are wearing masks, because you know that they have been disemboweled of their own creativity and free thought. And so the more of those you see, the less and less abilities we will have. And Josh, the fact that 6 years ago, people needed their cannabis, could get it for free, right? And now they have to pay outrageous amounts of money for simple products, that oils and things that can help so much. You know, that's where I get really angry and frustrated. And believe me, I get up every day, I shake it off, and I go out and I do my job. I teach people how to use biological products to support plant health through the ability to mine nutrients out of the soil instead of shooting them up and injecting them with the NPK game.
It is all about biology, you know, as Ken puts up there. I mean, you can't think properly without diversity in biology, you know, just like a plant, you know, if you can't breathe properly, you know, it's about being okay with biology. I think that's what it is, because we've been taught sterile is clean when actually somehow biology is clean. Somehow,
it's really funny too, because you're talking about the person with the mask, and the environment is allocating that. The environment that person is around is allocating that that's an okay thing. But what's really awesome about soil and nature is there ain't no faking it. There is no faking. So we can have these things happening in our environment with humanity saying, oh, that's okay. But in the soil, that shit is not going to fly, because it's the environment that is determining the health and balance of it. It's not going to be like, oh, okay, well, you've got one bad player over there, we're just going to let him have his mask on and drive in the car. Well, I'm sorry, but the microbiology is going to fully attack that dude 100% and say, sorry, we don't need stupidity in this game. But for some reason, we've lost that. We've lost that ability to call it out the way that it is, because we've lost our own intelligence. But when you go into undisturbed, untouched soils, that is the intelligence. That is the ways. Those should be the SOPs for every single thing that we do. Every single thing that we do should be the SOPs from nature and biology, because it's not being faked. Because if that guy showed up to the soil situation, he would be attacked by 50,000, beneficials that would overtake that stupidity. But for some reason, that stupidity is allocated and is allowed to grow and breed in our societies. It's just interesting. I don't have a solution to that, but I know there's one.
I think you are the solution. I think you are the solution, because we are starting to get more and more farms that are looking at closed loop systems, and they're educating other farmers, and that's kind of that's the main reason why we try to have these conferences, is really to create more champion farmers who are going to go out and share that knowledge, and slowly, yeah, cannabis can be that nice gateway into understanding that your food can be your medicine, and you can grow your own medicine, as Josh was saying. So I think you are the solution to that, and so that's why I definitely want more of that, and that's, I think, what Ken is trying to do here with the Soil Matters.
I love it.
And we'll always be the ones to say that we're part of the answer. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of people out there that are also the answer. Absolutely. And we're one part of that sandbox, of people that have answers.
With that amazing holism that you have, it's hard not to believe that there's so much overlap in a lot of these solutions, right? So that you're
I love how that.
Although
it's fun because a lot of, go ahead.
I was just gonna I'd love to know even how you came across some of your teas. Was it based around what you actually saw growing in your own backyards? I've been a stinging nettle horsetail fan for about 25, 30 years. I was wondering about, how come comfrey never made it into your teas?
Too fluffy.
It's pretty fluffy.
It's the only reason. I mean, for a jar. If that, do you mean like for our products? Do you mean for our products?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot. Yeah, it's fluffy. It's really hard to package up in a powderized form like that. You can do it cut, but it's really hard in a powderized form. And also, that recipe is my pregnancy tea blend.
Part of
recipe, except
for doesn't have raspberry.
It doesn't have raspberry in it. Raspberry leaf is awesome for plants as well. So I went with just a basic pregnancy tea blend, because that basic pregnancy tea blend I know is tried and true. And I know with women that are totally nourished, if they start drinking this, they're going to have beautiful, healthy pregnancy, and they're going to have a really healthy baby. So I know the power of herbs, and we just started using it on our plants.
And also the flower blend is reminiscent of the cancer teas out there, like Essiac tea. Ruth Case from Ontario, amazing woman who had a cancer clinic forever and helped thousands of people until she died naturally. Ruth Case. Case backwards is Essiac. Yeah. So you can look it up. Essiac tea. So like our flower blend is like a blood enriching cancer cleaner tea, which of course the plants love it. their plants are we're plants. They love what we love. So and how did we first figure out fermenting? Was when we moved up to British Columbia from Oregon to live a life in the mountains far away from everyone and homestead. 1998, our first year growing outdoors naturally on a large scale commercial was 1999, and we did that on a nettle slide. Well, together, it was our first year.
I did grow a big crop before that up in Alaska in totally closed loop in 1990. That was my very first one, but together.
You using lots of nettle in Alaska? No.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always use nettle. Then Josh is going to tell you, yeah, so go ahead.
It just wasn't a fermented tea in the same way that it was like here in British Columbia. I'm telling me different.
Yeah, we were using teas up there as well.
Yeah, well, you can explain like how. But anyway, in Alaska.
The point is that when you do a crop, what we were doing out really far in the mountains, we were learning from Quakers here on how to bring nutrition to your land. For sure, they're not going to be using anything synthetic because God is nature to Quakers. In our small community, we started going into a lot of the gardens to get cuttings of some of the flowers that I really wanted or to share seeds. And I started noticing that they had weed teas going and they were fermenting natural weed teas. And we just started doing that. Maybe you could tell about the nettles out.
Yeah, I mean, we went out into the mountains and brought garbage cans and put chopped nettles up along with the soil, because roots and soil and indigenous microorganisms and of course silica, and not just, well, the silica's in the plant, but what I mean is trace minerals from avalanches and snow, and the inside of the mountain is often limestone, so you get this like white kind of glacial till water. You have this glacial, basically super rich, ormus rich, like it's this water coming off the mountain. So we had gravity fed water. We turned all of the vegetation into the ground, made terraces, and we didn't bring any nutrients up there because we wanted to do it naturally. And that was 1999. So we were really together first exploring fermented teas in 1999, and we did it every single year, and it was very stinky, a lot like the Jadam teas that you see nowadays, which we totally 100% were making Jadam style teas in 1999 and before then, way before the book came out. Not a competition or anything, of course. It's just awesome to see that come out. And now you have everyone, a lot of people, with buckets that they let sit for a whole entire year and then come to it the next year, which I personally, we've hybrided that system. Like we don't use that system of letting it sit forever. And we've hybrided our fermenting system to where we can ferment as long as we want, year, 2 years with some teas, but then we activate it with air before we use it. That's the way we do it. We have two different teas.
One thing I wanted to say here is that the reason why it's similar to Jadam, or the reason why Master chose it, this is nature farming. This is what's been utilized since the beginning of time. And we are thinking that if we're using 100% nature, that it's this new idea and that these people are coming up with all these new things. But the grandmothers in Korea have been fermenting nutrients just like they ferment their kimchi since the beginning of time. Anybody who has any access to soil and plant growth before there was synthetics was definitely doing all of these things that we're trying to reconstitute into our educational mind and into our educational system, because education wants to push the synthetic forms so much that if we don't talk until our faces are blue, then the information is not out there, because people only value with what comes from a textbook and what comes from this big education. But what they're not realizing is those books and that big education has a big price tag on it. and that there's a lot of big corporations that make a lot of money off of what we call education.
I would just add that, we really identify as just closed loop farmers. That style, it could be all kinds of modalities. It can be every modality. And I think that you should adapt to all of those teachings to your bioregion. That's our main teaching. It's about bioregion. We first heard about natural farming by going to Hawaii. All of the information was very tropical based. A lot of it wasn't really for our zone, so we had to be like, all right, well, what makes sense here? Of course, we're not going to bring a pallet of sugar to our property and ferment our local herbs with it. It's just never going to happen. We just need to use it as a teaching, like, hey, let's look at all of our plants. Let's look at the herbal breakdown of all these plants. Why are they nutrient dense? What makes them important, valuable? Why are they perennial? What's an annual? How do I
if we know
create
that
canopy? How do I create horizons in our soil? How do I do all this on my farm, which is not natural, but we want it to mimic nature. So that's what I'm saying. Like, our farms in the world, I think we have the largest regenerative farm, closed loop farm network in the world, the DEM Pure certification. Mm-hmm. And it is based off your bioregion. It's not about Sepp Holzer and hugelkultur, or Ruth Stout and mulch farming, or Bill Mollison and permaculture, or Jeff Lawton and greening the desert, or all the names I could list forever. Amazing people in the world, composting, doing all these things.
What is your environment
telling
for
you? And where do your plants respond for you? Indoors too. There is a response indoors based off something.
Yeah, well, I think you highlighted that with Steve's Green Life Productions, and I believe they're DEM certified, right?
They are.
DEM,
oh, yeah.
DEM Pure certified, DEM Pure,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, one of the few.
Yeah, do you want to say a little bit more about that? Because I noticed there was a question there that somebody is looking to get certified. And look, and I believe that's Tom Landry there, who's got a couple of questions. But just, do you want to go through a little bit about the process of becoming DEM Pure certified?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you have to have at least 6 closed loops. And when we talk about closed loops, that literally means an entire closed loop. So let me make an example of a closed loop. One closed loop is that you use cover crops. It cannot be considered a closed loop unless you are producing the seeds for that cover crop also. That's a closed loop. You can't go get seeds from Johnny Seeds and say I cover crop and that's considered a closed loop, because it's not a closed loop. There's a big opening as to where you bought those seeds. That's one closed loop. Another closed loop is if you are going to be using nutrients as a feeding program, then the biomass must be grown on your property. And then you can utilize that as a closed loop. So you have to have 6 closed loops. And also you have to grow food and you have to grow medicine.
Well, flowers as well, pollinator gardens.
Yeah, and pollinators is you have to have a big pollinator garden as well. Pretty much everything that we created in the DEM Pure certification was so farmers would just be successful. It wasn't because we wanted something that was so crazy and so out of the ideas of everything else that you've been taught and by NPK Big Ag Gardening. It wasn't that. It was because cannabis is being tested unlike any other thing in the world. Now, if we were testing all of our foods in these organic systems, we would find that they were heavily contaminated also. But because cannabis had to be regulated in the way that it was, it helped people understand the impurities even in organic systems. It helped us understand that if you're using one of these things, then it could come out and fail a whole test. If you fail a test, then you're going to fail a whole crop season. Fail a whole crop season in cannabis. There's no insurance. You have to pass. So we created this so that small organic closed loop farmers would be successful and that good medicine would be put out on the market.
And we've used the differentiation. We think of the pure certification as a regenerative farming certification, but we don't consider indoor growing regenerative. As a group, as a whole, we've talked about it at our hive gatherings with Steve, with everyone, anyone growing indoors, it's not regenerative. They can use regenerative practices and systems in their soils. They're still awesome people. They have to grow food as well. Like, you can't just be like, whatever, I grow in a warehouse, like, give me a certification. No, you have to show and provide that you're creating environment outside, because really, like, it's about creating environment and supporting not only ours but the species. Go ahead, you have a question.
So if you are growing in a warehouse and Health Canada doesn't allow you to grow food alongside a cannabis plant, can you still get DM Pure certified if you also have a farm outside of your warehouse that you are producing food for your community?
Yes,
it
absolutely.
would be really difficult to have a DEM Pure certification indoors in Canada, because it's so hard to
in the regulated industry.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah, we would do it. We would provide the type of thing like an indoor farmer. Of course, we want to work with them, especially in Canada. I'm just saying that's all I mean, that system. But yes, they would have to grow another garden like at home or in a community, or they're still providing pollinators and doing things like that. We consider it a conscious cannabis indoor certification that instead of regenerative.
So yeah, it's dempure conscious cannabis and dempure regenerative. We have an indoor certification as well as our outdoor regenerative certification.
And RO water, we can.
And the reason why we do want people to grow food and to have pollinator gardens, even if they're growing indoors, and we know that Health Canada won't allocate that, we're doing it because we want them to have an education outside of just the indoor facility. How can we have a totally holistic vision if they're going to have a pest problem or if they're going to have a root problem? They're going to be more likely to be able to figure it out and go towards the right solutions if they have other gardens besides just the one that's indoor. So it's forced because we want to force more education and more of a holistic view on the understanding of soil.
And it's quickly becomes a lifestyle because we, ask about all of the cleaning supplies, and then like the break room, I'm not telling them what to buy, but like in the break room, like there should not be Coca-Cola in there.
No,
it's just not like, it's not, you can't drink Coca-Cola. That's not healthy.
It's not provided.
You're not helping the people that you're growing with to not have the whole picture worked out. That's what we feel. And that's what
if
everyone
the problem comes around, you want to have people that are super T cells. You don't want to have yeast and pathogenic fungi as the people that you talk to. We want activated people that have a brain that's ready to look at all different parts of this to come up with a solution that actually makes sense. But just like our soil, if we're feeding our body a bunch of sugars, then we're going to be creating a ton of yeast and bacteria that don't serve that thought process. In the same way as if we're going to feed that to the soil, it's not going to serve that same healthy thought process that plant that emanates and comes up and out of that soil. So the idea is intelligence from the very beginning. That's the idea of dempure. It's not just like little points and checklists and I've got a bunch of money, I can pay to play. We don't allow you to pay to play because number one, the certification is free. I'll say that again. The certification is free and it always has been free. And the reason why is because it's community monitored and it's community run, it's community educated. So if somebody in one zone, say in Michigan, wants to be certified, well, it's going to be all the Michigan regenerative dempure farmers that are going to come out and certify that person because they know their environment, they know their region, they know their area,
and their history,
and they also know the history of
Which
that
is-
grower.
yeah,
You can't
a
fake
lot.
it.
Beautiful.
Is that not the most powerful, beautiful thing you've ever heard of? They're forced to grow a garden so they know how to react to different things that can happen in their cannabis. It's about making them successful by default.
Right.
By default, you're going to be successful. You know, so and when I first heard all of this stuff, you know, that's again why I just fell in love with these two, because they're not trying to, there's no angle here. There's no fucking angle here. This is about being a true, honest human being, caring about the planet, being a part of the planet, being connected to the soil the way we should be. You know, so
And
go ahead.
providing a constructive alternative, just a constructive alternative. I think that's powerful. You know, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, a lot of it.
And because we don't like con, we'll say
I-
it's prostructive.
It's there's some struction going on, let's say.
That's what I love about you guys. The words.
Anyways, so again, the group of people, like, we put the certification out there. We didn't even know it was even going to do anything, you know, but it resonated. Maybe resin is like the ganja. There's resin there. It resonated with people, you know. It mattered, and it continued. Like, we get people all the time still, right? And we just got back from Europe. You know, we're going back to Barcelona in one more week, and we're doing the regenerative panel. We're doing all kinds of speaking, organic cup, first one. We're also going back to the UK in August to do also this whole meet and greet and there's an awakening happening in Europe. And to be honest, like, we went out there and we're like, wow, there's a huge disconnect on herb in Europe. And you always hear about it. We just have never been. You always hear like, oh, you go to Europe, like, they don't like care. They don't know. There's too many people, whatever it is. Of course, there's people that care. Tons of them. We met a lot of them. I'm saying, as a generalization, it's not represented in the in conferences, and it's not representative as a mainstream, which you have to understand to us is kind of surprising, because Europe is very advanced in organic farming for food. And people, you know, demand organic food in Europe, and countries have made incredible leaps towards, you know, organic farming. They've also kind of moved away from biology in Europe by not allowing raw milk and stuff like that. There's a lot of areas where they actually have moved away from biology, but also there's a lot of organic food farming there. And you would think, hey, you know, I want organic ganja too. But when you go to Amsterdam, maybe the gray area or one or two other places, Terp's Army, you might be able to find some organic stuff. They would know, but literally no one. They're just like, what do you mean organic? They don't even have a clue how it's grown, who grew it. It's illegal to even know where it came from to begin with in Amsterdam. So they've created a disconnect there. But we went to Barcelona and we were just like, wow, there's a community of organic farmers here. And we got taken care of in a way in Barcelona that was just like really amazing. And then we started realizing, oh, these people in the Basque region and these people up in France, and people just kept reaching out like, hey, I want to hang out and show you this medicine, talk about farming. Stephen Greenlife, they're with us. So we're going back out with them. And what we're seeing is a huge awakening. And I think we're going to talk about this year and one more year. And we're going to say, wow, now everyone's asking for organic ganja in Europe. Mm-hmm. Where last year they were just like, what? I smoke it with tobacco. Who cares? What? They're going to be like, oh, yeah. No, we totally need organic.
And you know, one good thing to see is we go to conferences and we've been, you know, doing like group festivals and all this thing since we've been together since the beginning of time. And I was never able to smoke anybody else's flower except for our own. And now I can go almost anywhere and smoke every single bit of flower that's offered there. That in and of itself is huge. So when we went to Spain, everybody was like, living soil, everything. And they hadn't even, you know, that's just within the last 2 years.
And there were some key disconnects, which we also helped with, which are going to be amazing. Like, wow, they're going to refine it again next year. Wow, they're hash making off the charts.
Amazing.
They love hash more than anyone over there in Europe.
Yeah.
So now they're just super on it. So, wow, the world is growing. Thailand, wow, opening up crazy.
Yeah, we've got lots of dempure certified farms over there and educators that are just doing amazing work right now.
New Zealand, Australia, and again, not just our work, Leighton. You're doing a bunch of stuff every single day, all the day. You know, so it's everyone's work here. We're just one part of the spoke of the world.
And I think the way you even set up the spokes, I mean, it's amazing because I was reading some of the questions and comments there. Hillbilly Herb was mentioning that, you know, it's something to work towards to get 6 closed loop systems going on your farm. But the beauty of the way you've set it up is that there's going to be other mentor farmers that they will be working with, and getting 6 closed loops is something that they will surpass very quickly. And they'll realize, I can get that closed loop with my water. I can get that closed loop with my worm castings. I can get that closed loop, you know, so on and so forth. And that's just going to be because you've created a network where it's peer-to-peer mentoring. And I think that's phenomenal.
That's it.
And we know that cannabis isn't addicting, but closed loops are.
They are. Yeah.
Also, there was a question about reusing dehumidification water. I mean, Steve, they reuse all their water.
They put it through it.
Also have to filter it quite a bit. So it's really about testing, you know, to know that the tubing and everything that all that's going through in the end is not going to have heavy metals in it, you know, or other types of residues, and even slime molds depending on the tubes that it's coming from and stuff. So, you know, of course, reuse your water. Water is key. RO water, do people use it? Yeah, they use it. It's just it's wasteful to water, you know, and it's also not living when it's done. So like an RO water is probably the most like inert thing you could actually even barely call it water, you know. It's like, you know, so we're trying to have minerals in the water, you know, we're trying to have like organisms. If you had RO water, I'd probably want to put something like C90 in it, or some kind of little pinch of like C90 is a type of salt from the ocean, you know, so you'd have all the organisms and all the.
And somebody's asking here what the difference is between C90 and Baja Gold salt. I actually don't know.
Baja Gold.
All you have to do is, the reason why we say C90 is because it's a company, it's a brand name. It really doesn't matter what the brand name is. What you're looking for is 86 trace minerals, 84 trace minerals with the 6 rare earth elements. That's what you're looking for. It doesn't matter what company or brand it is, because we know that Himalayan earth salt usually is between 12 and 17 minerals. And then sea salt may be only 6 to 9 minerals, but we're getting
actual dehydrated seawater sea salt is really different than sea salt that you buy at the store.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the iodized salt, which is death salt for you, of course. The most important questions we have farmers ask is, number one, is there a toxicity report for your input that you're bringing into your farm? Is there a toxicity report? So if you're getting salt from the ocean, you would need to know that ocean water was clean, because it's not like you're just going to go to any beach in the world and just start dehydrating water and using the salt. That could be horrible. There could be who knows what's in that. So you have to have a top, and that C90, you know, at cagra.com, they do that, you know, and they have all kinds of and also human grade testing. Human grade.
This is important, people.
So we can buy herbs for use, and this is a terrible word that they use, for use in organic agriculture, like OMRI. That is not a certification, nor is it an actual test. What they're saying is, hey, this can work in organic farming, and we don't necessarily have tested everything in it. There could be a loophole in there where a chemical was used.
Well, there's definitely a loophole, because we know that alfalfa can be used in organic certification. But if it has a shit ton of glyphosate on it, then maybe you wouldn't want to use it. That's the difference between an organic certification and an OMRI registry. OMRI is saying this can possibly be used, but we're not testing it.
Well, they're also like saying this is probably better than a horrible product, but I don't know. So anyway, our main point is if you're like, say, a large scale farmer and you're buying inputs because you're making your soil, 100% have it independently tested, toxicity at a farm, and make sure that glyphosate and other things are included in that, because often there'll be a 28 chemical report on toxicity and glyphosate will not be on there.
Yeah, they don't test for glyphosate because it's healthy.
That's not okay, right?
No, because it's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere.
Actually, it's everywhere.
Defined, you know? Yeah. So for the first time in the last 5 years, we're getting like 0.001 for glyphosate in the cleanest of alfalfa that you can totally find in America.
That's not good enough for us, so we have to find cleaner. It's getting harder and harder and harder. This is how hard it is, guys. A test done on 100 lactating women in Oregon, testing breast milk. All 100 women had dangerous levels of glyphosate in their breast milk.
What about jet fuel?
That jet fuel was another one. That jet
fuel. And don't forget the forever chemicals, the PLFAs. They're fucking showing up everywhere now.
People need to know about what a forever chemical is, and that's kind of why you just stay away from packaged things and processed stuff.
And that's why people need to pay attention to what's going on in Palestine, Ohio.
They're like patented things.
Agreed, 100%. And you guys, listen, I want to share two things, or three. Number one, OMRI is sold out. All right, you can buy products that are OMRI certified that have NPK in it. They have a small percentage of fertilizer in it. All right, and it's certified. So just don't trust anybody, like they say. You have to know your sources.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say is that this summer or last summer, I traveled across the country and I did 6 impromptu soil awareness classes, and I'd done them before years before, and I might get 4 or 5 people show up. But generally would never ask any intelligent questions. Last year, I think the smallest one I had was 25 people. Otherwise, it would be 40 or 50 people from all walks of life, all ages, asking really, really intelligent questions. It was one of the most uplifting things I experienced in my entire life, that the awareness was finally really starting to sink home. And I blame COVID. I blame people being locked up for a year saying, what am I doing with my life? What am I eating? How am I, where's my joy? Right? And lastly, I have a garden here in Oxnard that I use. I grow pollinators, indigenous plants, herbs and grasses, flowers, and I use that as a green material for my compost making. And my landlord, while I was gone, texted me and said, hey, the garden's a little unruly. Can I cut it? And I'm like, yeah, just have Timo weed whack it at 4 inches, chop and drop everything. It'll look a lot cleaner and it'll come back even richer because you're just feeding the plants the foods that they want in a baby food form. So eating a plant is a lot easier than eating minerals, or for the bacteria it is anyway. And so when I got back here, it was bare compost. Bare, gone. Wow. The little shrub that I've been nursing for 3 years, all the leaves were off of it, and the ones that were on it were brown, dead. You could snap the top branches off of it.
Right.
So, yeah, it was heartbreaking. It was devastating, and I had to work my ass off when I got back to catch back up because I was off for 3 months. So I didn't really have time to deal with it. And then finally, when I caught up with all my work, I called my good friend Kyle Moot, who will be on the show in the future. And I said, I want you to go out in the most polluted field, a field that you know. He's a corn and bean farmer, traditional ag in Illinois. And I want you to pull grass clods. So I want the grass, I want the dirt balls, and I want the whole plant sent to me. Sent me 3 boxes. I did a separation. So I took a concrete vibrator, I attached it to a compost bucket or a compound bucket or 5-gallon bucket, whatever you want to call it, added in water, hung the plant in the water, in the solution, so the plant was not touching the bucket in any way. And I vibrated it for about 15, 20 minutes, and all the soil came off. Now I had a bare root ball. So I took the bare root ball with the plant and I threw it in the compost pile, the grass. Then I separated the solids, the sand, silt, and clay, from the chocolate water. You just do it by reverse gold painting. So you're just pouring off the top, swirl it, pour off the top, swirl it, pour off the top. So you get, and then add a little clean water to get the last little bit. One application of that. 2 weeks later, I seeded it with new indigenous plants and new pollinators, hayed it, and sprayed it with one part my product, which is basically fish brew, my own compost, and some worm castings. If I took you out to that garden right now, you'd never know it was devastated.
Nice.
The reason they're making Roundup 5 times stronger now is that the biology has learned to break it down.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So sometimes you can use the opposites. If you are in a situation where you know you've got a problem, go to nature. There's nothing she can't break down. Nothing. And you guys, I'm about to start a project in one of the most polluted Superfund sites on the planet. Poe and I are going in.
Is it a Hanford in Washington or something, or what?
No, actually it's Rocketdyne.
It's what?
Rocketdyne. So Rocketdyne is where they brought the German scientists right after the war and set them up on top of this mountain where there's no people around. And they did crazy shit up there. They built the rocket, the one that the Apollo rocket engine was built up there. When they test fired that thing off, the whole Simi Valley shook.
Wow.
They had the first nuclear reactor up there, which unfortunately melted down in '58. They had a burn pit, you guys. I don't know if you know what a military burn pit is.
Yeah.
They throw everything they have and burn it.
Yep. Mustard gas.
You name it. Whatever they were fucking around with. So there's a burn pit up there. They are being sued by the state of California to remove 3 million yards of soil, haul it to Nevada, burn it, and haul 3 million yards back up onto that mountain.
That is super intelligence. I love it. I live for this kind of intelligence.
Yeah,
I think we all die. We all die because of this intelligence.
That first regenerative conference you were talking about before, I forget the person's name, but he was a soil scientist who was there. It wasn't Caesar. It was the not Chip. Not Chip. He had a project in India that he was doing soil. It was a bunch of waste and garbage in the soil there, and he grew, vegetation like weeds, and then tilled it back in and grew weeds and tilled it back in. I think it was 4 cycles or 4 years, and then retested the soil, and it had gotten rid of all of the heavy metals. And it wasn't through incineration, it was through microbiology and tilling it in. And I found that really powerful. He was a soil scientist. I'm being really lame that I can't remember. But
let's think about something for a minute. When you've got a brain, when there's somebody that is thinking off of, they've got so many pathogens in their body, they're feeding their pathogens, there's sugar, they're all this idea. The last thing that those pathogens want to be discovered is biology and nature. Because inevitably, as soon as that person starts speaking about nature and biology, there's a possibility that could kill them, or at least kill the person that they are now. So it's just really interesting to me that Of course, an unhealthy society is going to be pushing unhealthy ideas. Because if we actually have nature, there's way too much of a chance that nature is going to come in and wipe that out, which people see as a death. And that's the kind of death that we need. We need death of the stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
We need that kind of death, but people don't recognize that it's going to be death of the stupidity and not just death of their whole being.
Right.
If they start, being one with nature or start allying with nature.
So true, Kelly. And I've been so blessed because I've been playing with fish shit and soil biology now for God, must be 15 years. And what it exposed me to and what I've exposed my body to, bathing in teas and fish manure and soils and compost. I swear to God, it's the only reason I'm still alive. The shit I did when I was a kid, I was a contractor, I was a stone cutter, the glues, the cleaners, the adhesives, all of that shit. I mean, we had products like Bin. You remember Bin? You you could paint over crayon. You could paint over crayon, and then you could paint over the bin, and the crayon did not bleed through the latex paint. That shit, when you painted with it, you got so incredibly high, like fucking falling down drunk. And then when you stopped, the headache came in. Oh my God, not even aspirin would fucking help. Shit like that. I mean, just horrific chemicals that are all banned now. Pressure treated lumber, copper, arsenic. I was caked with that shit and cutting it and breathing it. So if I'm still here, you can all be here too. Just make a really good compost extract and fucking drink it. Bathe in it, wash your face in it, wash your hands in it.
And you know what's pretty awesome to think about, Leighton, is if you think back on your thought processes and what kind of inner talk that you had with yourself when you were working with those highly toxic compounds, when you were working in an environment that wasn't with nature, you could probably think back that inner talk or those inner thoughts were not very healthy. It's a fact. And when people start to ally with nature, they're going to have more nature thoughts. That's the healing. That's the true healing.
Which are inclusive, diverse, and everything grows to its full potential together.
Yeah, and it's
really easy to see the pathogen when the pathogen comes through the room.
Like,
and
pathogen. Jesus.
And it will too. It's called shadow work. If you go down the rabbit hole of really understanding who you are, it can be difficult. It's not easy, but if you continue to do it, you spiritually enlighten, then all of this shit gets shed off you like you're wearing a lead suit. All of a sudden you're free again. Mm-hmm. So
a lot of what pharmaceuticals are treating us for are exactly what they've caused. Mm-hmm. We all know that, but it's good to say it again. What they're trying to cure us of because of money, but we realize that that's not curing us. It's just going to bring us into something else that we need something else from them because they've created something else for us. This is exactly the same as big ag and what they're doing to our soils. It's why I never separate the body and soil. It's always going to come back and forth. I can't even separate, if we're looking at cancer, I can see it in plants. I can see it in the soil. We're talking about leukemia. I can see it in the soil. I can see it in plants. Talking about low blood pressure, high blood pressure. I see all of these ailments that human beings are having in nature, and the solution is sitting right fucking there. But yet let's try to overthink it with a pathogenic brain. And the pathogenic brain was given to us by somebody that's telling us that we're better educated because of it.
Sometimes
and you know what's even crazier, Kelly? The pharmaceutical industry will come out and tell you that they're treating you. But what they don't tell you is they're treating the symptom. not the problem. There's 157,000 individual medicines for treating a symptom. Not one of them cures anything.
That's right.
How horrifying is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Horrifying.
It really.
Same as in Big Ag.
I feel honestly it's all about like it's about the soil. It's like it sounds so general, but like even at the beginning of COVID, I'm just like, we just need to like drink soil and like lay down in like a lot of dirt, you know, because like the one thing that we have like that can save us from this madness is actual soil diversity by drinking it, by having it in our bodies. And there's plenty of soil microbes for sale at every natural food store has soil microbes in it, and often they're in the refrigerator section, and they're extremely expensive, very expensive.
Like ridiculous.
I'm not saying they're bad, but it's an expensive endeavor.
6 pills about $35 or $40.
And then also like fecal transplants are some of the most powerful reinoculation, you know, thing. And that's like the humans that you soiled yourself, right? You shat yourself. It's amazing how the soil is the key to our life, and the lack of biology in the soil is keeping us from nutritional plants. In the forest, they're always slashing and burning and cleaning and fire smarting and killing they're killing all the branches and burning them. So it's hard to get mushrooms in the forest, like medicinal mushrooms, because they're so managed. And you're just like, wow, you have agriculture killing biology, you have forestry killing biology, and you have the medical system killing biology. It's wild how the one thing that we probably need to do, like just the most basic thing, is how do we build biology in our bodies and in our soils for our plants. And it's all these techniques are not just some romantic techniques that are interesting to look at. They're 100% like, this is how we're going to survive. Surviving is like, do you want to feel good?
Yeah,
like, I want to feel well. Like, and do
I don't even know if people know what it is to feel well, right? Because
you got it.
I think one of our biggest challenges, and it really does tie into everything that you both have just been saying, is that I think as a society, we, especially as a so-called developed nation, first world society, we're all suffering from inflammation. It's probably the number one so-called disorder would be inflammation.
Yeah.
And largely coming from processed foods and sugars and all these hidden oxidants, essentially. And really, that's what conventional agriculture has done to the soil as well, right? So we've oxidized the soil to the point where plants have to be producing a lot of anti-inflammatories, which is great because, I mean, that's what we want too, right? We want those flavonoids, the cannabinoids, the terpenoids, because they are, in fact, a lot of antioxidants as well. And so we need that to address our inflammation, just the same way using the fish brew, using the compost, using EM, using the fermented. I mean, it's amazing all the fermented foods that is your probiotic in a, you're not paying $5 a capsule. You're getting a lot more CFUs eating kimchi and having a kefir than you are buying that acidophilus or whatever. So I really, it does tie in. Our soils are inflamed, our bodies are inflamed, and drink soil.
I also have one more thing to say really quickly is the oxidation is like oxygenation. And a lot of a lot of human bodies on Earth right now lack oxygenation. They don't move their bodies enough. And they're also not connected to food and not connected to growing. So it's interesting, like our farm can be actually everything we needed. It's the movement that we're looking for. It's the yoga that we're looking for. It's the food coming back at us because of our actions, that reward. It's that whole closed loop health cycle, you know, eating the soil and all that thing, you know, like we need to like reoxygenate our bodies as well and create movement.
And also, you know, one thing that you said, Leighton, is that we're treating the symptoms. And now it's really nice because we can actually bring this thought processes into an educated group, which is our viewers right now. So our viewers are starting to understand what this really means. And an example that I'm going to use is that when you're treating a symptom, let's say all of you people out there who have dealt with broad mites, okay, let's just use that. That's a pest.
And the only way you can see broad mites is how, because they might not know.
Well, okay. I didn't want to get into broad mite talks. That's a whole. All I want to say is that if there's a plant that is experiencing something, let's say aphids, whatever, it doesn't matter. Broad mites, aphids, it doesn't matter. What a doctor is doing is totally equivalent to me going in and pulling all of the leaves off of that plant. Did I solve the aphid problem? Fuck yeah, I did. I solved the aphid problem. Isn't that what you asked me to do? Didn't you ask me to solve the aphid problem? And then you realize, well, it did solve the aphid problem because there's no more leaves for the aphid to even fucking eat.
Well,
that's exactly what pharmaceutical curatives are doing to you. Chemotherapy is like going into a cut block and clear cutting every single thing in there and not relying on that there were positive influences there that you could start to grow off of. So really, this type of treatment that's happening in our health system is no different than how I just explained it to you.
Yep. And then you wonder why the plant dies.
Yeah, then why did oh, right. We needed to have a plant. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So the problem is not necessarily the aphids or cancer. The problem is an unhealthy biome.
And so you guys, you want to hear something really crazy? My cousin married a chief of staff of an ER facility. So as chief of staff of the ER, he has to understand all the different medicines, all of the different disciplines within surgeons, so that he can make sure that he's calling the right people in for the issues that are happened, the trauma that's happened to this human. So he and I were sitting talking after the death of a family member. And he's like, I heard your cousin says you're into soil biology. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I go there and I look at their soil under a microscope and I'm looking to see if there's protozoa and nematodes and, you know, what level of bacteria are here. And he's like, well, you ever heard of a fecal transplant? And I was like, no, what is that? And he basically explained it to me. I have to go to this guy's sister to get her manure to re-put into her brother, so that he can actually process food. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. What are you doing? And he's like, so in this product that you make to apply the soil, do you have protozoa? I said, yeah, I've got oxygen or aerobic ones. I have flagellates and amoeba, and sometimes testes, sometimes naked, you know, sometimes big flagellates, sometimes little flagellates. He's like, wow. And I go, well, if you're thinking about using that as a fecal transplant, oh, absolutely. You could put some in a capsule and eat it so that it passes through your stomach into your upper intestine. You could use it as an enema to infect a lower colon, which is actually our pharmaceutical. Our entire pharmacy is in our lower colon. Yep. And then you could drink a compost tea to supercharge the stomach. And I said, to be honest with you, you know, I'm a contractor. I could build a clean room in my shop and grow only, you know, herbs and special plants that would replicate a perfectly healthy human, and do it in a clean room where I would then make the compost for you as medical grade extracts. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to go back and talk to the board of the hospital. You know, we're going to push this through. This is going to be a game changer. And I said, oh, by the way, it won't cost you much. I mean, what is it going to take me? A couple of hours to do this? So I need $150, right? Can you handle that? And I'll give you a yard of the shit, right? Enough to treat thousands of people. 2 weeks go by, I don't hear from him. I call him up. I said, Wayne, what's going on? You left this place on fire. And he goes, Leighton, the board couldn't figure out how to make money on it, so they're not interested. I was horrified, absolutely horrified. Here's a way to jumpstart the human biome so that they can digest food naturally, and you don't want it. And you know, this is why I say, and I agree with you, Kelly, doctors are important. Yeah, if I get in a car wreck and I'm unconscious, I'm going to get brought to a hospital and they are going to patch me up, right? That's important. But to go to a doctor based on an ailment that I have would be foolish, because all I have to do is understand what is causing that ailment, and I can cure the problem, not treat the symptom.
Right. And truly, though, you know, fecal implants can be done in your kitchen at home. You just have to be very, very knowledgeable of, if you are doing a fecal implant, that the donor of where you are getting that from has had no antibiotics for an entire lifetime, that person has a great biome. Because what we're realizing too is what you're talking about, Leighton. We can create and we can make that biology, and we can sort of do it to mimic it. But we know that the greatest fecal implants are going to come from human beings, because that biology that you're making then went into a human being to then become highly intelligent within the human being.
The human system.
So the human system creates intelligent beings. And what's really wild is we're talking about donors. Yeah, they're, it's like 0.04% of the population of people on the planet can actually be donors.
Or they qualify biologically.
Could qualify biologically for this.
Wild.
And where are you going to find that? Where are you going to find that tiny little fraction?
Yeah, you're going to find it in developing nations that haven't, you know, partook in this pharmaceutical or chemical reality. I know we have one woman here that's in her 90s. She's Quaker. She's never had one antibiotic her whole life. She's never taken anything, nothing. She's never even taken aspirin. She never even had it. She never needed it because she's always been healthy. She's in her 90s, still shoveling snow. Probably today she's out there shoveling snow.
Well, I suggest we're
losing that.
I was going to say, I'd suggest you take her some kind of bags and have her poop in them and freeze it, because you never know when you're going to need that shit.
Yeah.
Do you freeze dry?
Yeah, we can freeze dry it, maybe, for reals.
We are going to freeze.
Be interesting for you guys to look at it under a microscope.
We are freeze drying wild organs from animals like moose and
deer and elk.
Yeah, deer and elk from Alberta, from a few friends. A lot of people don't save their organs, you know, from wild animals. And in the, you know, moving forward, you know, with finding nutrition and stuff, organs are one of the best things. So we're going to slice it up and freeze dry it and capsulize it and use it for our own health. We're really excited about it. It's just starting now for us.
So the one thing that I learned in originally in developing the product that I make today was it was all about delivery, right? So in the beginning phases of the work, of course, I was using manure, or fish manure, compost, and worm castings, same as I still do to this day. But I was making an extract and then freezing it. And the reason I froze it was because I could get everything through every time. I wasn't losing any organism. So I don't know about freeze drying if you might lose that biology with this woman's manure. So maybe that would be a better way, is to actually, you know, put it in caplets and then freeze it so that it was there when you needed it. Whereas freeze drying, you might lose some of that diversity.
would.
Yeah, you probably would.
probably
You lose it when
would.
you're freezing too. That just goes
Makes
along
sense.
with when we test the capabilities and the strength of herbs and herb microbiota. We notice that herbs that are dried naturally are less potent than ones that are freeze dried. They have more biology on them that are freeze dried, but freezer, haven't totally checked out that, because it's not usually a dried form of the herb.
Right.
Then it's, I love that. And I mean, that just sounds like sort of a fresh pressed juice as opposed to drying it or concentrating something,
Exactly.
And that's an
Makes
interesting
sense.
point about wild animals
Makes
with
sense.
viruses. Silly Lily was just talking about wild animals with viruses. So that's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're having the same sort of things as, we are. They're having a hard time on the planet like we are,
Mhm.
But just like, I think that it's important that, we're pointing out a lot of things that need to be fixed because we're looking for solutions.
Yep.
But within all of these things that need to be fixed, there still is this beautiful crystalline energy of perfection, of humanity's relationship with nature. It still exists. It exists because we're still here on the planet and people are still having their babies and we're still going through this death and this life and this birthing process. We still have a chance to create a holistic system that makes sense, that's built in healthiness, because we are still here. And you and I know that in a soil lab, or you're looking at certain biology, that there are positive beneficial biology that do no longer exist because of the pathogens are so great. We are not there on the planet yet. There is still a tremendous hope for humanity. There's a tremendous hope for the cannabis industry, for plant medicine, mainly because they're going to be here, way longer than we're going to be. But we are making sense of it in a way that is highlighting nature. And for you all to have this show that's getting out to thousands of people that actually want to watch it. It's not that you're putting on the show, it's that it's working because people want to watch it. And that right there is biology integration, even if it's over a screen.
And the thing is, it's the problems are being solved, solutions are being found as a result of conversations like this. It's inspiring other people to think outside the box. How would nature react? How would nature bring balance back to my environment? It's not hard. It's not hard.
I had the ability, I just tell a super quick story. I had a beautiful ability to talk to a woman who was a Black woman from the South in Alabama, Margaret Smith, right a couple of years before she passed. This was a woman who was born into slavery times, and by the time she was 2 or 3, had seen out of that. But she was a traditional midwife who had seen over 7,000 babies into the world. And I went to a conference and I was so excited. I was aspiring, amazing student. I'm right up front, got all of my notes going. I'm ready to write down every single thing that this woman says. I'm there. She only said 3 words to every single question that you asked her. What do you do if you've got da 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 da? Oh, well, in that situation, if you wait long enough, the baby will come. Oh, well, hey, what about this and this and this? Oh, yeah, that baby's gonna come. Well, you've got like da 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 da. Well, if you wait long enough and you hold space long enough, that baby will come. I think about it. with every single thing that I do in my life. Because nature is going to show itself no matter how much you think that you know more than that, or no matter how much you want to manage that birth or that experiment or that lifestyle. That baby is going to come.
I feel like that about the cannabis industry in Canada right now. That baby's going to come.
The baby's going to come. We're just waiting for it. We're going to sit.
We're going to
hold
be
space.
represented one day.
We'll be here.
We'll have good micro farms connected to good solventless processors.
We'll be waiting for you.
They'll be able to get to the consumers.
They'll find us
eventually. Well, look at what happened in California. It didn't come. Dang it. But hopefully
it's going to come. It's going to come. You wait long enough and it will definitely come.
But,
Amen. Yeah. Amen. So good to see you guys and see your faces and hear your voices and feel your energy coming through. I miss you guys horribly. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah,
definitely. Likewise, always, big respects to you, everything you're doing with the soils and your new website that you've put out and just all the different things that you do. When you went on the soil thing, I know you stopped out in Michigan and met up with the camp compost people. They're really amazing. We really love them. And what's going on is really beautiful. Yeah. And all the different places in the world where people are gathering together and sharing, the love of soil and plants and doing seed swaps. And we're seeing not just seed swaps, but seed and spore swaps, because people are growing more mushrooms and they want
seed
spores.
And root and spore swaps.
Yeah, because they're getting all like hella hyphae up in the zone and everything, So, it's really fun to see everyone really just getting smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's really seeing, and I love what's happening with Grow Up. I love it.
Oh, by the way, it's all Ken's fault. It's all Ken and Will's fault. They pulled me out of retirement, and they dragged poor Av onto this as well. So give the credit where the credit is due.
Blessings.
I love it. Thanks, Ken.
Were there any questions, Ken, that you wanted to ask? Go ahead.
Actually, the questions pretty much all got asked. Sharing and caring community, yes. I think I want to say one thing about Camp Compost is Alexa's drinking compost tea. She's washing her hair in compost shampoo. Ooh. Okay. I take worm castings on a regular basis to try to get the biology back into my gut. Those are just little things that we can all do. But like I told Josh and Kelly, and I have to get down to their place because I want to crawl into their compost pile because I know the biology is there and I need that biology in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, all you got to do is grab a handful of soil anywhere on their property, throw it in a glass of water, stir it up, and drink it, just like I did for you.
Not all the time. That's what I recommend to all my patients. That's for sure. I'm like, hey, if you're going to be working with me, I just want to let you know that you're probably going to do some kind of psychedelics. You're going to be drinking and eating dirt, and you'll be using cannabis by the end of it. So if I work with you, great. We're meant for each other.
You guys are absolutely amazing. I don't know what this community would have done without people like you going out around the globe and sharing this knowledge and understanding with people and opening people's eyes. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for being who you are.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. I love what's happening with the Grow Off. It's cool that Kevin Jodry's coming up and Ed Rosenthal and some of the people that we've known over the years, and all the other speakers that you're having there to help spread that knowledge. That's beautiful. Thank you, Ken.
We'd be honored to have you.
Nice one.
We'd love to come. We'll find out about the details of that. That'd be amazing. We'd love to come. Anything that we can do in Canada, we're always up for, because we feel like it's just so necessary to keep spreading the knowledge and creating all the good vibes with everybody. And we love Canadians. So. That's easy. For
Hey,
us.
we're nice people. What can I say?
We are. We're nice people.
Now, I know
thank
you
all.
guys had something coming up in Nelson, I think this weekend, isn't it?
We are not going to be able to make that, which is happening on February 27th.
It is still happening.
Go ahead, tell them.
Yep, it's happening on February 27th in Tagum. If anybody is interested in it, please come and talk to us. The only reason why we couldn't come with last minute is because there's a really big there's a really large opportunity for the whole world in Holland in a natural living soil garden grow there that we are finding that we're really having to be there. So even countries now are asking about living soil. They are now interested, and they know that they need to have it as a part of, stepping out into the cannabis industry. Otherwise they're going to be behind. So yeah, tag them the 27th, and also in Barcelona, and we're going to be there for 12 days. And there is events that are going on almost every single day of those 12 days. We have panels, talks, there's workshops going on. There's going to be the Ego Clash event. I mean, it goes on and on.
Ego Clash, yeah, Masters of Ross, and all the different things. There's you look at our story. Look at our story, and you'll be able to see what's going down.
Yeah.
Av, do you have something or anything coming up, brother?
Not. I've got some, some great speakers coming into my class the next few days. That's great. Doing a nice. We've got a living soil discussion group that goes on, and I'll pass along the invite coming up on March 1st. Other than that, if you're around, if anyone's interested, the Emerald Science Symposium's happening in San Diego, March 1st to the 3rd. That's what I've got.
Nice one.
Awesome.
Leighton, do you have anything, my friend? I know you've got a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, we unfortunately just got word today that we were doing a soil awareness class, a living soil awareness class down in LA, and the person that owned the dispensary sold to the suits, and the suits just came in and killed it. So we're going to scramble and find another time and another place to do the event. So unfortunately, what I put out, hold off on. I'll get back to you when I have the hard new dates and locations. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But other than that, just work, eat, and sleep, Barla.
And I know we have Kyle, the farmer, coming on next Monday with Keith from Fish Brew, because they've been working together with Leighton on some projects, and we're going to get that information out coming out next Monday. I've got a couple of Passion Within podcasts this week. One with one of Dr. Elaine Ingham's students, and with Keith from Fish Brew. He's going to come on Thursday. So that's it for me until next week. And of course, the OG's Power Hour every Monday, and this show every Monday afternoon, which thank you guys all for coming. And thank you, the people that were in the live chat today. You guys are awesome. You guys make it all worthwhile with your comments that I can bring up and share. Your love for Josh and Kelly was apparent in a lot of the comments. And that's just amazing. And of course, for Leighton and Av and myself as well. So thank you very much. And if nobody else has anything to say, we're going to end the broadcast.
Love you guys.
Thank you all so much. All the love.
Okay, guys, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Monday with Dr. Avsingh and Leighton Morrison and their guests next Monday. Watch the IG. I keep putting them